Morning to everyone. I am K. Mohamed Irshad, Assistant Professor of Commerce from Haji Kartiraudar Haudia College, Tomapalaya. First, introduction to the joint stock company. In a brief way, the joint stock company is formed to overcome two limitations, that is, inadequacy of funds and unlimited liability. In sole proprietorship and partnership firms, these are the two major problems faced by the owners of the firms. The most convenient form to overcome these limitations, the most convenient form of organization is the joint stock company. Definition of a joint stock company: a company is an voluntary association of many persons who contribute money or money's worth to a common stock and employ it in some trade or a business, and who share the profits and losses arising therefrom. The common stock so contributed is denoted in money, and it is the capital of the company. The person who contributed it or form it or to whom it belongs are only a members of company. The proportion of capital to which each member is entitled in his shares. The characteristics of the companies. The first characteristic is company is an voluntary association. The second characteristics is it has a separate legal entity. The company is only an artificial person created by the group of persons. It has a separate legal entity which is separated and distinct from its members. The members, the death or an death of a member will not affect its perpetual succession. The next one is a common seal. Common seal is a seal commonly used to be affixed in all the documents of the company. The next is a perpetual succession. The company continues forever. It does not The continuity does not affect by the changes of members or a death of a member. The company, joint stock company, has only a limited liability. The transferability of shares are easy in the company form of organizations. To form a company, we need seven documents. The first one is a memorandum of association. The memorandum of association includes the objectives and aim of the company, for what purpose the company is formed, and memorandum of association includes the authorized capital of a company and many things many things. The second document is an articles of association. Articles of association includes the bylaws of the company, the laws to be followed by the management and its members of the company and the employees. The third document is a statement of the nominal capital. Fourth document is notice of address of the registered office. The fifth document is a statutory declaration. To start a company, the directors has to prepare all these documents and submit it to the registrar of the companies. The registrar of the company will verify all these five documents and then issue a certificate called certificate of commencement of business. While a company receive the certificate of commencement of business, they can start a business. After this certificate only, a company can issue prospectus to the public for the subscription. These are the seven documents compulsorily need to start a company form of organization. The next topic is an divisions of share capital. There are some divisions in the share capitals. The first division is an authorized capital. Authorized capital is nothing but an maximum amount which can be raised from the public as a capital. This authorized capital is in another way it is called, it is a maximum amount which can be raised as a capital in the lifetime of the company. This authorized capital is mentioned in memorandum of association also. Next, next part is an issue. This next division is an issued capital. The issued capital is a part of authorized capital. It is a part of authorized capital. Next division is on subscribed capital. This subscribed capital is a part of issued capital. The subscribed capital has been applied by the public and also allotted by the company to the public. Next one, called up capital. The called up capital is a part of subscribed capital which has been called up by the company for payments. The next part is a paid up capital. It is the part of called up capital which has been actually paid by the shareholders. The next one is a reserved capital. The reserved capital is the part of subscribed capital to be called up only at the time of winding up of the company. It is called reserve capital. You can see that in divisions of share capital, all the capital is a part of a previous capital that we can understand by reading this presentation. The next one is types of shares. In shares, there are two types of shares. One is preference share, and another one is an equity share. Preference shares are the shares which have the following two preferential rights over the equity shares. Number one, the preference share. In preference shares, the dividend are paid at a fixed rate during the lifetime of the company to its preference shareholders. The repayment of capital on the at the time of winding up will be paid first to the preference shareholders. Yes, the equity shares are those shares which are not preference shares. These shares do not enjoy the preferential rights. A rate of dividend is not fixed on equity shares, and it is depends upon the profits earned by the company. In case of winding up of a company, equity shareholders are not paid uh, immediately. They will be paid after the payments are made to the preference shareholders. Equity shares are also known as an ordinary shares. Next, next one is now only we are entering into the topic, the issue of shares. The issue shares are issued to the public subscription in four types. By issue, the company, the joint stock company, will raise capital only by the way of issuing shares. The major source of the joint stock company is shares. They will acquire capital only by issuing shares. In this issue, there are four types. Number one, issue of shares for immediate and full consideration. The shares are issued in four types: issue of shares for immediate and full consideration, issue of shares for consideration receivable in installment, termed as calls, issue of shares without consideration, issue of shares through other methods. In other methods, issue of shares through other methods, there are rights issue, employee stock option scheme, sweet equity, private placement. An issue of shares without consideration is nothing but an issue of bonus shares to its existing shareholders. The first two types is issue of shares for immediate and full consideration. It means the shares are issued and the amount received in full. If the share is the value of a share, one share is rupees 100, the total value will be received immediately while at the time of issue itself. That is called an issue of shares for immediate and full consideration. The second type is an issue of shares for consideration receivable in installment term response. It means the full value of shares will not receive immediately at the time of issue. It will be received in installment basis. For example, if a value of share is rupees 100, they will receive in installment. This 100 rupees will be received in installment. Whenever they need a cash, uh, they will ask the shareholders to pay the money. This installment, the rupees 100, the value of share is rupees 100. This 100 rupees will be received in installment basis. Like, and the at the time of applying the shares, they will receive some amount, a part of amount from rupees 100. That is, it may be a 20 rupees or a 30 rupees. Eh, After that, at the time of allotment of shares, they will make a call to the shareholders to pay the money as an allotment money. It may be a 30 rupees. The application money will be a 20, it may be a 30 rupees. Totally, for 100 rupees, they will receive 50 rupees. After that, whenever they need fund, they will ask the shareholders to pay the remaining money. We can understand while seeing the problem in these methods. There are three processes in the issue of equity shares. First, a company will invite subscription from the public. The public will apply for the shares by paying application money. That is the receipt of application. After that, after receiving applications, the company will allot shares. They allot for shares, and then they can, and then this process will continue further like this. Okay. In next from next class, we can see the problems. Okay. Thank you.